Welcome back to another episode of 365 Unlimited. We are back with another interview. As you can tell, we are joined by offensive coordinator at University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, Coach Nick Pesik. We're excited to sit down, chop it up with him, learn a little bit about the college sports angle, Wisconsin football, D3 football, just all of that together, kind of hear a little bit about his story. But before we do, please continue to like, view, and subscribe all of our videos, all the content we put out. We appreciate that greatly. It helps us grow, helps us reach new heights, and we appreciate that. Also, check out our three sponsors: Driftless Quality Wear, Bacher Auto Group, and Not Vintage. That is KNOT Vintage. You can use the code 365U for 10% off at the checkout with the best graphic tees in the business. All right, Gannon, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, shout out. Thank you, Coach, for joining this. It's going to be a good talk. Just kind of the first question we always do is kind of the viewers get to know you, who you are as a player, coach, former player, coach, just as a person, just all that, etc.
Yeah, so going in year two here at Whitewater as an offensive coordinator, going all the way back. I'm from actually just about 40 minutes outside of Whitewater, right by Madison, Stoughton, Wisconsin. So grew up in the Madison area, and obviously was involved quite a bit in all sports, but football, basketball, baseball. Did track my last 2 years of high school, and then went to small school in Wisconsin, Ripon College. And my first year there, I did football and track, and then after that, I just did football. So graduated there, and then kind of I knew I wanted to stay in athletics and stay in sports, and actually sent out going into my last semester of college, sent out like letters all over the place to all schools, Division 1 level. Started at the Division 1 level, just trying to get on anywhere I could, knowing I wanted to coach. And I got lucky because at Northern Illinois University, there's a coaching change, and probably sent out 100 emails and heard back from like probably five, six, maybe 10. But just happened to one of the coaches at NIU. Was like, hey, we just got here, so we're looking for help, and was fortunate enough to get on at NIU and volunteered my first 2 years, and then was an offensive GA my last 2 years. So was at NIU for 4 years, and was fortunate to be there at the time I was, because we won 3 conference championships and played in the Orange Bowl and played in 4 bowl games, and Jordan Lynch was a Heisman Trophy finalist, and it was very, very lucky to be there when I was, with obviously a lot of great players and a lot of great coaches. So, and then after that, I've been pretty much in the Wisconsin system at Whitewater and at Stout, and then now back at Whitewater. So, been pretty fortunate in this business where you could be all over the place. Where I've been pretty fortunate to be pretty close to home my entire career so far. So.
Yeah, for sure. You talk about sending out a hundred emails, hearing back from about 5 people. So obviously that speaks for your interest in football as a whole. So kind of touch on what is it that stands out about football for you? What is your why behind football?
Yeah, I mean, kind of going back, I mean, like I kind of touched on briefly, was like obviously when I first, or like I wanted to stay and get in coaching. I should say get in coaching and stay in athletics, because obviously I loved the sport. But then once I got into it early on, I think the biggest thing that I saw, like probably my first year at NIU, was like the relationships, and the people that you meet and the players you meet. And at NIU, we had people from all over the place, right? We had people from the Chicago suburbs. We had kids from South Florida. We had kids from Alabama. But at the end of the day, like they all had a story, right? And they all love football, right? And that part is probably the biggest thing that I've loved getting into the coaching world, is the relationships you have with not only other coaches but the players, the support staff, and that's kind of been my why. And you know, obviously we coach these guys hard, and we want to hold them to the highest standard, but at the same time we want to love them up too, and so my why has been the relationships, the people, and trying to do the best I can because of people we have in these different programs and that. So.
You hit on your 4 years that you spent at DeKalb. Just talk about that, as you said, was the foundation, winning the MAC championships, and this was all just straight out of graduating and doing this. And said you're very lucky and blessed for this. Just to speak to that and just how much, because that's a lot of winning, and that was something that I still remember from growing up, being 10, 12, 11 years old with that time with the NIU. That it took it by storm because there was a lot of NIU grads around the Freeport, Illinois area. That there's a lot of buzz and chatter from that. Just speak on that being your foundation, really getting into the coaching world.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I still, or a lot of things we do to this day, kind of start from, being there and growing as a coach, and kind of growing in whether it be an offensive mind or just a football mind in general. A lot of my kind of roots go back to that because that's the first thing I know getting into coaching. So, like I said, I was fortunate. Obviously, we had great players. The guys like Jordan Lynch, and before him, Chandler Harnish played in the NFL for a long time. And Tommy Lee Lewis was in the NFL for a good amount of time. Jimmy Ward's still in the NFL.
Yeah.
We obviously had a lot of really good players, but also like off that is if you kind of look at it now where some of the guys on staff are now that were there. Matt Canada is the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. Just to name some few, but kind of off that is like the guys that I was a graduate assistant with. Kind of where they've got to now. It's pretty cool to kind of look back and be like, we kind of all grew up together and as coaches, and now we're all over the place and coaching at all these different levels, and it's pretty cool. So, but like I said, a lot of what I do and a lot of what we do at Whitewater kind of stems back from that in terms of the kind of core foundations, whether it be offensively, the no huddle, or what we do formationally, all that stuff, personnel placement, a lot of that stuff comes from that. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is kind of a unique question I have in a way. I don't think I've really asked this to. I don't think we've had a college coach on here yet. This might be one of our first. But so being a part of all these different college programs, taking what you can from different guys and learning and making connections, all that. What would you say like the core piece of culture has been throughout all of your times at different schools? What is one takeaway you can have about culture that's been present within all the locker rooms you've been a part of?
Yeah, I think a big piece is the relationships, whether it be player to player, player to coach, coach to coach. All the successful seasons or places that I've been, like a lot of them stem from that. Like people enjoyed coming to work every day or coming to the facility every day because they knew the guys that are going to be around. So that's a big piece, and we've done a great job here at Whitewater of that. And we've got really taken up a notch this last off season, just getting closer as a group because it's a slogan or a saying, but like the teams that are closest are the best teams, right? So that's a big piece. And the other part is like having a standard and not slipping to that standard, or slipping below that standard, not letting anything or anyone kind of slip below that standard, and having that player-led team where not only the coaches are holding people accountable, but the leadership and the other players are holding each other accountable. So that's two big things. Like is the player-led teams and the relationships. Those are two big pieces.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the end of the day, it's about having really good players, right? It's going to make us look good as coaches, and they do what they do on Saturdays, but kind of some core values to that are the relationships and player-led teams and not letting those standards slip. So.
Yeah, Gannon, before you go, I want to ask you quick just to piggyback off of that, because obviously within the coaching world, building relationships is huge. As a coach personally, how do you go about building those relationships? When a freshman recruit walks through the doors and he's got no idea what the playbook is, or obviously he's been able to take a look at it, but a new freshman walks in the door, how are you going about building that relationship?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is based on like trust, right? And trying to build that trust. And a big thing is like making sure that these guys know that you care about them outside of football. I think that's one big thing. We're fortunate here at Whitewater where we can, we have a much smaller pool, and we in our recruiting base is smaller than a lot of other D3s just because of our roster limit. And we can be selective within who we recruit. And what that allows you to do is build relationships, not only for me recruiting quarterbacks, but also like all of our offensive guys, because, we're not bringing in 70 guys on offense. We're bringing in, 20 to 25, right? So you can build those relationships with those guys because you're not bringing a ton in. But I think a big piece is making sure they know that you care about them outside of football. So like some things that we do here within the quarterback room is, having these guys over to my house and having, having dinner. This before spring ball, we had them over and we got Chipotle catered in, and it's just hanging out and, them seeing me and then seeing my wife and my family outside of, my office and the practice field, right? So making sure that they know that the relationship's genuine and it's not just about football, right? So
Going even more off of that question and answer right there, kind of before all this, when you're recruiting a college or a high school quarterback, depending on what you're trying to bring in, what are some of those intangibles that you're looking for kind of on and off the field?
yeah, I think the leadership part's big. I mean, the great part is like I said, with being selective and recruiting, we can reach out to the high school coach, right? Get a background on them. We can sit and talk to them. We can talk to other people around them in their web. So a big thing is that toughness, the competitiveness, right? The leadership aspect. Those are some things we really like it. Multi-sport athletes. We have guys who are coming in who are state qualifiers in 3 sports. And that stuff's huge, especially if you're going to be the signal caller, right? Just the fact that you've been in big pressure moments and not just football, but in multiple sports, that part's huge. And then obviously, the physical part, a lot of that kind of speaks for itself, but it's always a bonus to have a guy who's athletic and can move. We're fortunate now in our quarterback room where really all of our guys can do that. And guys we're bringing in can do that as well. It just kind of allows you to add an extra element to the offense. So those are some big things. I mean, the competitiveness, the leadership, the toughness, those are 3 big things, right? It's cliche, but in tough moments, everybody on the offense is going to look at that quarterback and, if he's relaxed, if he's ready to go, he's poised, and everybody knows it's going to be all right.
Yeah, I know for sure, for me being able to, from a personal standpoint, being able to watch your offense live in action this past year, having the opportunity to be on the operations staff and just understand the day-to-day operations throughout a college football program. I can tell you like to score points. Whitewater likes to score points, but even throwing it back to 2021, averaging 34 points a game and 430 yards a game at UW Stout, being the OC there. Just kind of speak on, without giving too much away, obviously, but just speak about your offensive approach and how you go about heading into a game, planning, just all of that approach-wise.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece, like, and I learned this early on, like leaving Whitewater as a receivers coach and then going to Stout as the OC. You look back now, whatever 5 years, 6 years ago, whether it was, and you see how much you've learned from that first experience. And probably the biggest thing that you learn is like every year's a new year, right? And you have to not only start from ground zero and build from the ground up in terms of offensively, in terms of installing that, but you also have to kind of see what you're going to be that year in terms of what your personnel is, who your best players are, what your quarterback is like, right? What your offensive line's like. And that's a big thing that I learned early on as an OC. It was like, you can't just take the Whitewater offense to Stout and run that, right? Because the players are different, right? And that for us was a huge thing for me, probably midway through my first year as a coordinator, was I don't have to do it the same way we did the year before at Whitewater, right? I got to do it the way that fits our offensive personnel, right? And there we had 3 really good receivers. We had a quarterback who could run, and we ran the quarterback and we threw it all over the yard. And then my second year at Stout in 21, like you referenced, we had a couple of running backs who would kind of add to the mix. And we had a guy, Arthur Cox, who's from Dixon, Illinois, so not too far from you guys. But
Yeah.
he was a guy. You get the ball in his hand in any possible way, right? And he's going to be electric with it. So, and then coming here back to Whitewater, we have tight ends who are athletic, dynamic, right? So finding ways to get those guys involved along with the receivers and that stuff. So I think the biggest approach is at the end of the day is finding what your personnel is, right, year in, year out, and kind of making sure you have a system that is able to adapt and not so you don't have to change drastically every year, right? But you just are able to maybe do things more specific. Maybe you're really good at power, right? Maybe you have the personnel that's good at power. So right, you're gonna be multiple with your power scheme, whether it be Q power, regular old school power, power read, whatever that may be, right? Your skill set fits that, so that's what you're going to be. So I think at the end of the day is having a system that's flexible and multiple enough to be able to fit in what your players are that particular year. So like I said, at the end of the day, it's about what your personnel is and kind of maximizing that. So I think off of that is being able, for us, we like to be able to play to multiple tempos and be able to dictate the speed of the game by be able to speed up and slow down and having control of it on our end, right, and keep a defense off balance. So
You talked about being able to adapt was kind of the biggest thing, leaving Whitewater and then coming back. Kind of what's been the biggest thing or lesson learned from when you finished playing now all the way to present day coaching?
So there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is so for me, at Ripon, I was a triple option receiver. So we didn't do a ton schematically or obviously pass game wise. So I think the biggest thing was I was kind of a blank slate coming out of college, right? And I think probably the biggest thing is I obviously kind of going all the way full circle is a lot of things that people do now in terms of the RPOs and the bubbles, all that stuff added to your run game. Right. At the end of the day, it's just triple option, right? So it's kind of ironic and funny how it's come full circle, right, in a different way. But as a player, we were double wings, a fullback and two receivers, and it was under center triple option. Whereas now, we could be in, a 2x2 or 3x1 with three detached, or, four detached receivers and whatever. But at the end of the day, we're running some run scheme, and it turns into triple option on the outside, right? So it's, I think probably the biggest thing I learned is there's a million different ways to do things, right? But do things you believe in, and like I said, dictate, have your best players in the field and get them the ball, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make you successful. So for us at Ripon, that was the read, ride, decide triple option, and here it's sometimes it's 21 personnel and running power or wide zone or whatever, and handing guys like Tamir and last year Jalen and so.
For sure. I mean, those you mentioned two guys right there. Those are two guys that were fun to watch play football. I mean, having on your offense, talk about personnel wise. If you have guys like that, you're going to be successful. It makes your job as an OC a lot easier as well. But let's throw this back to a different perspective in a way. If you're looking at high school's athletes right now, what are you looking for when you're recruiting these kids? What's some things that just for some advice, I guess, for kids back home, kids in our area that are looking to get recruited, looking to play college ball, further their career. What's a college coach, more specifically an offensive coordinator, looking for?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is, especially coming to Whitewater, is they gotta love football. That's one of the first questions we ask the high school coach once we start recruiting them is, does this guy love football, right? Are you able to coach him hard, or things like that? Does he love practice? Because that's the biggest thing, Bryce. These guys work really hard, and at the end of the day, you don't have a scholarship check coming, right? And you gotta you do it because you love football, you love Whitewater, you love wherever you're at, right? So, what's your why? What's going to get you out of bed every morning for in February and in March at 6 a.m. to go lift and work out with Coach Shimmons, right? So that's a big piece. Is they gotta love football. They gotta love to compete, right? And the cool part at Whitewater is you're going to go up against the best of the best every day in practice, and it's a really competitive environment. So you got to love to compete. And then obviously, tough guys, physical guys, whatever position it may be, those are big things. So guys who love ball, guys who are competitive, and guys who love to practice on a daily basis, and guys who just love to continue to get better. Right? We talk about 1% goals, and we have 1% goals for our guys. Of every day, they have one thing they're trying to improve on. Right, and the next day, if they didn't improve on that, then they're going to keep that as a 1% goal. So, tough guys who love football, who are competitive, and want to get after it every day. Obviously, every position is a little bit different, but we love guys who can run, who are dynamic with the ball in their hands from a skill standpoint, and then guys up front who are physical or nasty, who love finishing, and guys who are athletic. So.
Yeah, again, and before you go, I just something that you said right there, I mean, sticks out to me the most, and just I want to add to that, being a hard practicer for any youth athlete, any high school athlete, recognize that because if you're a hard practicer, coaches take notice of that. It shows up on the film when you watch it, especially at the college level. And I know from my perspective, watching a guy like Tyler Ulti at Whitewater this past year, being a vet receiver for the squad. Not only was he dynamic with the ball in his hands, but every single day he came to practice and it was 100%. It was a game. It was a game mentality. And it was, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to line up against you one-on-one and you're not going to stop me. So for the youth athlete, high school athlete, understand that like if you come in to a college program, no matter if you're a freshman, whatever you are, be a hard practicer and coaches take notice of that. But yeah, I wanted to throw that in there.
He's a great example of that.
Yeah, he was electric just to have on the pod. He was a good dude. You could just I never watched him. See, I'm not around the Whitewater stuff as close as Bryce was this last year, but just listening to him, oh my God, that dude is somebody ready to run through a brick wall in a 20-minute interview.
Oh yeah,
Just sitting down through a computer screen. It was
Coach Ulti right now. So
yeah.
Oh, is he GAing right now?
he's helping. Yeah, he's helping. He's doing an
That's
awesome
cool.
job.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Awesome.
It's
That's good.
it's cool. It was not to take this off track, but
Oh,
him and I
good.
got a
Oh, you're
special
good.
relationship. I recruited him before I left, and my for his freshman year was my last year as a receivers coach, and he played quite a bit for us as a true freshman. So it was awesome to be able to come back his senior year and
That's awesome.
be able to coach him again. And so he's got a special place for me, and I appreciate him and his family a lot. So.
Yeah, talk about spring ball for a sec. How is spring ball going with these few weeks of practice that you guys are allowed to have? How's everything going with that?
It's been awesome. Yeah, it's been really good. Were you with us last spring, Bryce?
Yeah, I was there last spring and then I was there all fall and then student
Yeah.
teaching now and all that fun stuff is kind of taking over life.
So probably the biggest or the best part is the weather's been unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Last spring it rained like every practice.
Rain, snow, sleet.
Yeah, exactly. Today was a little wet, but from having as many practices we had where it's been beautiful, that we'll take it. So
Mhm.
no, it's been awesome. There's been a lot of energy. There's been a lot of juice, and it's been really competitive. In the head-to-head, periods of Skelly, one-on-ones, those types of things. It's been really competitive, and the cool part is like the defense will have a run, the offense will have a run, and the opposite side will battle back at the end of the period, right? So it's been really back and forth. It's been awesome, it's been pretty cool to see, our our work in the off season, not only strength wise and that stuff, but also like our culture stuff of trying to grow and be closer. You can see it, really come to the field, and it allows us to coach the guys harder because we have relationships with, right? We're able to push them, and they know that it's coming from a good place and not just a football perspective, right? We're trying to make them better. So overall, it's been really good, and I can't appreciate the guys enough for how hard they work and how hard they get after, and every day they've brought energy and juice, and that's a huge thing for us. And they've been competitive, so it's been a great spring ball. So
Good to hear.
Switching to a personal note for me, I'm graduating, finished on my baseball career. Then I'm about to be a grad assistant for the next 2 years. Just what's some advice and recommendations for me and just other people aspiring, really to get in the coaching world?
yeah, I think a big thing is like willing to do anything, right? Anything and everything, right? And no job is too big or too small, right? And I think those are two big things. I can't I can't tell you how many times I drove to O'Hare or Midway to go pick up a recruit or a coach come in to visit or whatever. And I think that just do the best, whatever the job is, just do it the best of your ability, right? And like my first year at NIU, I was the guy who held up the personnel signs. So we had the picture boards of like Ace Ventura and all that stuff, and like that was when it was first started. And like our offensive coordinator, Coach Canada, he always had a mantra of, any job, big or small, do it well or not at all, right? So like whatever it was, it's cliche, but I was like in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna be the best personnel sign holder in the country. Like nobody's gonna be better at this than me, right? And just having that mindset of whatever you do, right? Whatever the smallest task you do is just do it the best you can, the most detailed, um, and knock it out that way. And then just at the end of the day, like it's cliche, but be where your feet are. You know what I mean? Like if you do the best job you can do, like people are going to notice, um, and, and eventually, however long it takes, right? It's gonna work out. And then probably the last one is like you know don't worry about jobs you don't get, right? Everything happens for a reason, and the journey you're going to go on is going to be what it is, right? And you're going to end up in where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. I think that's probably the biggest thing as a young coach, because you get frustrated sometimes where you compare yourself to somebody else or compare your journey to somebody else's, or you miss out on a job. Like not worrying about that and just put my head back down. I'm gonna go grind, and it's gonna work out the way it's gonna work out. So that's the biggest thing, just being available.
No, that's powerful because
Thank you. Yeah, that's
I,
awesome.
I mean, just Gannon. I mean, him being one of my best friends, I hear him say that all the time. Be where your feet are. I mean, that's one of the things I hear him say all the time. So it's valuable insight. I appreciate that. Hearing that. Uh,
Yeah,
I think
it's
the
not, and
most.
it's not easy. It's not easy. You know what I mean? Like
No, it's
especially as a
not.
younger guy, I think the big part is not comparing yourself to maybe somebody you GA'd with or somebody your same age who right, who's doing the same thing you are. Like it it all work out the way it's supposed to work out. So just do the best job you can where you're at.
I like it. I like it. One of the last questions I want to ask you is what are you most looking forward to? I guess obviously going to be wrapping up spring ball here. How many weeks you guys have left with that?
We got 2 days left. So
2 days left. Okay, so it's this
yeah.
week. I'm gonna try to stop by. Uh, so wrapping up spring ball this week, and then obviously getting the off season, the summertime, off season workouts, all that stuff. What are you most looking forward to heading into the 2023 fall season? Uh, some expectations, some hopes, pound the rock mentality. I know we haven't really touched on that, but just anything you're looking forward to heading into the fall season.
Yeah, obviously as a full group, excited to see where we're going to be at as an entire team, right? And the steps we can take during fall camp, because that's really what kind of builds your team. And those tough days in August, where it's just you guys and there's no school, there's nothing. It's it's 12 hours a day, and you're with the guys. So excited for that. I'm also just excited for the growth, and this will be the second year for us, and the growth that we've had already, like coming back from last fall to this spring, has been awesome, and we really like where we're at, and we're making some new tweaks and new adjustments this spring. That's been awesome, and excited to continue to build off of that. And there's roles and there's opportunities for guys to step up into, and excited for those position battles and that. So just excited for this team, this group, this coach staff, everything to continue to push forward and we won't put a guarantee or anything out there, but we're just excited to compete and, like you said, pound the rock on a daily basis and get ourselves better every single day and get closer as a group and connect and be the best us we can be. So
You get another
what it is.
championship. I'm ready for another national championship. Conference championships are awesome and everything, but I'm ready for that national championship.
I'll let you say. I don't need
Yeah.
I don't need to say.
One of the final questions we always wrap up with, just kind of talk on your experience and just kind of anything, on this episode, this recording, and then any advice for us as a podcast, as young guys, 22-year-olds in the sports world, just any of that you want to throw in.
Yeah, I mean, I would like get as many different people on here as you can, or like, just different experiences, different backgrounds. I'm a huge podcast guy. I love podcasts, and one of my favorite podcasts is The Pivot. I don't know,
Yep.
I don't know if you guys are there, but like just the different backgrounds of people and the different varieties of people they have on there, and how they allow them to tell their story and their journey, I think is awesome. So, and everyone, there's something you can learn from. There's something you can take away. So yeah, obviously you guys are doing a great job of this. So, and keep rating the Warhawk staff. There's plenty of guys on there who want to talk and want to be in front of the mic or on Zoom. So, anybody you want, we'll get you connected and we'll get them on here. So, but no, this has been awesome. This has been great. These are great questions, and at the end of the day, like same, whether it be podcasting or working or coaching, it's the same like core principles we talked about, in terms of GA, and it's be where your feet are, do the best job you can, and nothing's too big, nothing's too small, and if you kind of have that mantra and try to get better every day, the product should be great.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
It's all intertwined, man. It's all
Exactly.
I've had an injury that's kind of derailed a little bit of playing, so I've kind of already been like a little bit of the student coach, like as I've been graduating, and it's just telling a lot of these younger guys, man, it's a two-way street. It all have, if these 2-3 hours a day dictate what you're gonna do for the rest of your other 20 hours of the day, man, you're gonna be in a rude awakening when you hit the real world, because it's just a fine line. That's why I love sports. That's why I love it, and the foundations is created for all of our lives growing up. But I don't know, Bryce, you got anything else or?
No, I just want. He said raid the Warhawk staff. It's funny you say that because one of our first guests actually was Coach Shields. We had Shields on.
That's what he said.
That was
I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know if Shields remembers it just based on.
Yeah, I asked him today. I asked him what to expect, if I was gonna get some hard balls on here or what. So.
That's been a little evolution. That was probably our first Zoom. That was our first Zoom guest, like through a live recording. Yeah, that's a little full circle moment. Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I can say truthfully that back then we probably weren't as good as presenters and speakers as we are now. So
you had a little better experience than Coach Shields, probably.
A little bit better, yeah. But I do want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your night. I know what that coaching schedule is like, and I know you're up from before the sun even comes up to when the sun goes down. So I appreciate you. I know your time's valued, being with your family, being around the people that you love. So thank you. It really means a lot to us. And just being an aspiring coach, being able to be around the Whitewater program, I just want to let you know that I'm blessed that I had the opportunity to learn from someone like you, just indirectly seeing what you like to do on and off the field. It's important, and I value it very much. So thank you very much.
Of course. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on anytime, Like maybe I'll be the first recurring guest. Is that still open?
There we
go.
That is. We still haven't done that.
All right.
So yeah, but no, thank you very much. This was awesome. It was great to hear some insight personally, and then also for the viewers out here, just to have somebody to talk to, a little connection. And again, connections for the sports world. That's how it is. Just put a face to a name and talk a little bit. But best of luck to you as you keep going your coaching career, keep grinding, keep doing your thing. You obviously got it figured out. I know you're going to keep excelling and doing that, but just best of luck to you also, Coach.
Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it a lot. Thanks for having me.
For sure. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Keep tapping in. We will have more coming soon.